Hello, hi there. My name is Sarah Elise. I'm an astrologer in Toronto, Canada, and I'm putting this newsletter out on Monday, June the 14th. I want to talk a little bit about the moment of time that we're in. Today is the second of three squares that we will be experiencing in 2021 between Uranus in Taurus and Saturn in Aquarius. So I've been writing all day about this in my newsletter platform, and I've been getting very little, making very little progress. So I thought I would just speak this out, okay? I would love to give you my interpretation of this square and to share a personal story about how it's been revealing itself to me. Listen, we are all in the midst of an incredible change in our society, in our evolutionary zeitgeist. We are all going through a massive reconfiguration of our energy bodies, of our consciousness, and of our social fabric. Saturn in Aquarius is making attempts to create form that will contain the new seeds or the new pattern for the way our society will be for the next 200 years. In December, when we had the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius, we began the start of a 200-year evolutionary cycle. For the next, 200 years, Saturn and Jupiter will come together every 20 years in air signs. We're replacing a 200-year cycle where these two planets defined our culture in the realm of Earth, a materialistic, resource-focused cycle of wealth generation and, unfortunately, depletion of our planetary resources, right? So we're changing right now. We're moving from Earth to air. And as we make this evolutionary shift, we have to change the rules by which we play the game. We have to change ourselves and evolve. Now, this year, particularly 2021, we're experiencing a negotiation of what that is going to look like. The Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius is creating a conversation between two warring factions. This is how I'm perceiving it. Uranus and Taurus is about the liberation of our fear for survival, the liberation of our survival. Taurus is all about survival. It's an archetype of meeting one's basic needs, being able to eat, being able to sleep somewhere safe, being able to survive, having enough, being able to provide our basic fundamentals in life. It's about what we value and what we hold dear, okay? Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is an archetype of revolution and change. So as it sweeps through the archetype of Taurus, it's a 7-year progression through the archetype. It brings a revolution and an evolution to our understanding of what it means to be safe, what it means to have our needs met, and what it means to procure value. So we have things like cryptocurrency, which has taken off in the last few years. We have evolution of technology. We have climate change that's been, erupting undeniably more powerfully in the last few years. And we have COVID, right? Talk about a threat to our survival. Talk about something that came along to show us all how very vulnerable we are. And one of the things that I noticed when COVID hit in 2020, what I received as a download around that time was that there was a need for us to face our fear of death, to face the fear we each had within us of having our survival threatened, of being unable to be safe at some level, right? And there are so many people who are paralyzed by fear when COVID came and who spent an entire year gripped in the paralysis of that terror of this virus that no one could seem to control, right? A lot of fear came up. Then along came some social order, some change. You know, as Saturn entered into Aquarius, we all started to understand the rules. The rules started to unfold. Saturn entered into Aquarius last year. We began to see negotiation of what the collective was allowed to do and not allowed to do, and when and where. We saw the vaccines come and be introduced as a quote unquote remedy for the social confusion or the social dissolution or the social harm. And as we entered into 2021, these two planets, Saturn and Aquarius, which was trying to create structural form to contain the collective, right? Aquarius and Saturn, putting boundaries and structures and rules and organizing the Aquarian collective, that which would be good for all of us, came into square with Uranus and Taurus. This feeling of, I am afraid for my survival, and I need to make sure I can meet my own needs. I am a sovereign entity. I have a divine right, Uranus, to be safe, Taurus. And so there's this clash that's happened in our society, isn't there, between the organizational kind efforts around procuring rules and structures and, you know, like solutions to keep the whole of us, all of us safe, right? Looking at the collective as a whole, as in an Aquarian way, looking for technologies, looking for advancements, the vaccine, for instance. How can we make sure that the whole collective is taken care of, right? I have clients who are doing work at very high levels of society, working on structural reforms and organizing, and there are people all over the planet who are trying to figure out solutions for everybody, to make everybody better, to make everybody safe, to make sure everybody has food, to make sure everybody has a place to sleep and everybody has healthcare. It's a shit show out there. People are doing their best. So there's this movement to procuring safety for all. Yet there is also this equally as powerful movement saying, no, you're trying to take away my safety. You're trying to hurt me. You don't have my best interest in mind. There's something wrong here. You're a threat to my survival. You're a threat to my security. And it's a square. So that means neither one is winning. They're having a conflict. They're in a negotiation. There is no right or wrong in the situation. It's a stalemate. A square represents a corner. When you're backed up into the corner, all you can see is the corner. You can see nothing but the conflict, right? You're blocked. There's no way to get out of a conflict if you stay at the level that it's happening at, because you're in a corner. You have to figure out another way to resolve the conflict. Now, I'm going to share a bit of a personal story with you. I hope that's okay. It's intimate, and it's been up for me this last few days. So it's been really bringing this conflict home to me in a really deep way. So I decided a couple weeks ago, I started to get this message from my guides, and that I was supposed to get the vaccine, which was fine. Like I'm not afraid of getting the vaccine, but nor have I been afraid of the virus. Interestingly enough, I never felt like it was a threat to me, or that I was worried about getting it. So I've been very detached about the vaccination issue. I've been sort of sitting and curious about it, and you know, not really actually very interested in diving in. Like I certainly haven't, you know, I know there are a lot of people who, when they got that vaccine, they just felt so relieved. It was like they could breathe for the first time in a year. Oh, thank God, I'm safe now. For me, it wasn't like that. It was really, I could have cared less, right? I was very neutral about it. And I wasn't judgmental of the people who wanted to get it, nor was I judgmental of the people who didn't. I was just in the middle. But I started to get this message, and it was pretty clear. And they're still telling me all the time, you know, just, it's safe. Get the vaccine. It's okay. You're okay. This is safe. This is a test. They keep saying to me, this is a test. Get the vaccine. Prove that you're safe. So it was strange, because I wasn't going to get it, right? I was resistant, and I wasn't really going much deeper than that. But I happened to reveal to a friend of mine a few days ago that I was planning to get it. And I knew he was a quote unquote anti-vaxxer, right? And so I knew that he would try and change my mind, which is why I didn't want to tell him. But what I didn't count on, I didn't know that as soon as I told him, he would unequivocally say to me that I was in no way allowed to have physical contact with him ever again, and that if I got this vaccine, I would be a threat to both him, his children, and my own children. And over the next couple of days, he sent me a barrage of videos and blogs and articles highlighting all of the reasons why the vaccine was a bioterror weapon that was designed to control the population and destroy our health in the long term, and why, because of shedding and all of this stuff, that the vaccine was actually a danger and a threat to those who are unvaccinated, and that it was being used as like a covert manipulation technique to destroy human life on Earth and to create like mass amounts of infertility and degenerative diseases. And it didn't just stop with the information. The last email I got basically told me that I am selfish, that I don't love my children, and that he never wants to have contact with me again. And I didn't say a thing. I took the information, I read it, I watched the videos, I sat, I analyzed, I took notes, I curated opinions, I reached out to friends on different sides of the camp, right? Like I tried to be objective, I gave it a lot of thought, but the vitriol and the emotional attacks just kept coming. And today, the culmination of this is right here, like sitting in the middle of this, witnessing these two camps, so to speak, standing and staring in the corner, right? I'm staring in a corner. I've got, all of these people I know who've been vaccinated fully, like all, like my deepest soulmates, to my best friends, to my family members, to my neighbors, to like everybody I know. And they're all just fine. Like there's not been a single adverse reaction that I've heard of from anybody. I don't know. It just hasn't even seemed to be an issue. It's like been a non sequitur. It's just kind of like whatever. And then I've got this other side, which is so violently in objection that I am now a threat to the nature of their being. Like if I take this vaccination into my body, now become basically a weapon against them. And I'm looking at these two sides, and I'm trying to adapt, right, to the inputs and figure out what's right for me, because I don't feel pressure to get vaccinated. I don't have anyone in my life pressuring me. Thank God we have free will. I mean, we're not being mandated by the state, so to speak, yet, but the fear is there that we will be. And then there's this uprising, and I have a human right to be free and to choose. And then over here, we've got these people saying, wait a second, like, please get vaccinated. I mean, it's going to make it all better for everybody, because then we can move forward, and then we can come to a new way of being with each other, and we can be free again, and whatever it is, whatever the narratives are. I've now come to the conclusion that it really doesn't matter. There's going to be a negative tone on either side if you want there to be. There's going to be a discordant pattern on each of these sides. No matter what, there's a darkness on both sides, okay? There's a light on both sides. And it depends on which narrative you're feeding, how it's going to come into you and how you're going to relate to it. And the message that keeps coming to me, again, is this message to have faith and to trust and to lift above the fray, so to speak, and be at peace with whatever decision I actually decide to make. And that it's more important the attitude I bring to it than the actual choice I end up making. It's more important to elevate to a place of forgiveness and love and acceptance and connection and collection of all of my brothers and sisters. And to know that at some level, whatever this evolutionary turn is that we're in right now, whatever this change point is that we're in right now, we have to collectivize. We have to connect with each other and trust at some level that we're all in it together, and that there is an evolutionary event happening that is way beyond what we can perhaps see as we stare into the corner, but that it has our best interest in mind. And so here I am looking at all of these inputs, and I am saying thank you to the rebels and the revolutionaries. Thank you to the anarchists who are digging down and who are looking to see and reveal all of the conspiracies and the possibilities of harm. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you. And thank you to the valiant warriors and the heroes on the front lines who are managing this disease and who are helping to make sure that we're all okay. Thank you to the inept and incompetent politicians who are doing the best that they can in the moment with what they've got and trying to make decisions based on the greater good that are always inevitably going to piss everybody off. And thank you to the imperfection of all of this right now, because it's crazy and the divisiveness is insane. I mean, for someone to go 1 minute, I love you, I am devoted to you, you can trust me, I'm there for you, to I hate you, you're dangerous, you're evil, I get away from me. Like, that's alarming, isn't it? But that's the reality we're living in right now. So I wanted to bring this out to you and perhaps just share my story as a way of inviting a conversation about this in yourself. Because, you know, if I know one thing is true, it's that the things that are happening outside of us are happening inside of us as well. That this square that's happening in the collective is happening on the internal, right? And so I'm trying within myself to make peace with my fears for survival, my fears of not being safe, and my love for people and my love for the greater good and my desire for harmony in my community and for friendships and connection. So my needs for myself and my desires to take care of others, how are these things interacting in me? Where's the negotiation for me? Where is the place of peace for me? It's my choice how I resolve this conflict. My friend made a choice. For him, his beliefs were stronger than his love, right? He chose to reject me and make me the enemy because he wanted to make his belief in his own need for security more important than his connection to me. And that's his right. He's playing that role in the collective right now. That's his value system right now. And it's okay. I'm okay. I'm not, you know, I'm going to move on. I got lots of people in my life who care about me, and I'm going to be just fine. Right. I'm sad, really sad, but it's not personal. It's his reality. It's not mine. So that's okay. I respect myself and I'm going to continue on. But each one of us is going to hit that. Each one of us is going to have that moment, right? I had an interaction this morning. I ran into a woman in the cemetery where I walk my dog. And we had a talk, and she said, you know, how was this last year for you? And I told her, I said, well, you know, boy, it was hard, and I got lonely, and I was sad a lot, but I feel like I'm coming through it now. I'm so invigorated by summer. How was it for you? And she said, oh my God, it was the worst year of my life. You know, I was supposed to get this surgery, but because of COVID, all the hospitals were closed down. And so I had cancer and I didn't know. And it got deeper and embedded and it grew. And then, you know, when it went, by the time we figured it out, it was too late, and I had to have surgery and chemo. And I had, you know, I had a terrible time, and my parents are dead, and I was alone and in, you know, in an apartment with my dog. And I didn't want to reach out for help. I felt embarrassed and ashamed, and it was so hard. It was so hard. It was so hard. Like I can't tell, you know, and And she said, this is the first time I've been out of my apartment walking. This is the first time I've felt strong enough to come out. She's like, I've been thinking about you, wondering how you were. I'm so glad we ran into each other today. And we had this really beautiful moment of heart to heart, you know, where we talked. And I shared with her this thing about this person and this decision that I'd made and this change point that I was in. And she laughed and she said, listen, you know, my doctors, they're forcing me to get the vaccine because they say if I were to get COVID, I would die. I mean, there's no doubt. My immune system is so compromised at this point, right? Because of the sickness. She's like, it's interesting that your friend said that you're selfish, Sarah, because for me, from my perspective, you getting the vaccine is totally selfless. And I heard that and I received it. And I said, thank you. You know, and I in that moment I was so amazed because it's just that noticing that there are so many different truths, right? There are so many different ways to see reality. And none of them are right or wrong. They're all personal, aren't they? And the only one that we get to take responsibility for is our own. So I'm going to leave you with that, and just my prayer that each one of you is able to find a place of peace within this conflict, that you're able to look out on other people's perspectives with kindness, with forgiveness, with acceptance, with understanding, and with compassion. That's it. Beyond that, do whatever you want. It's your life. All right. We're halfway through this year, guys. This is the second hit of this square. We've got one more on December 24th. I have a feeling, my spidey senses say, that by the end of this year, we are all going to know a lot more than we do now. Enjoy. Bye-bye.